evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of NPU Weekly, the weekly webcast show that highlights all the goings-on in the world of North Park University athletics. I'm your host, Kevin Shepke, and for this next 25 to 30 minutes, we'll be taking you inside the world of North Park athletics, going ahead and covering all the goings-on that are going on within fall athletics so far here through the 2014-15 season. Looking at some of the things that went on this past week, the North Park football team is coming off a 48-21 loss to Wheaton College. Unfortunately, we did have some video with Mike that was recorded earlier, but unfortunately, due to some technical difficulties, we were unable to get that for our webcast show this evening. So just looking at some of the highlights of that game, the Vikings had 268 yards passing. T.D. Conway was 26 of 44 in passing completions. Dan Anderson had 2 touchdowns, had 5 catches for 80 yards, and Philip Pendleton had 10 total tackles on the defensive side, and he had 8 solo tackles in that game. So Vikings had some pretty solid performances individually, but just an unfortunate first quarter for the Vikings led to the decision that they had against Wheaton. So Vikings will be returning to action this Saturday when they host North Central College, and they'll be returning home after a 3-week away game spurt, and they'll be hosting North Central College at 1 p.m. We'll be bringing you that game live on the NPU Live channel starting at 1 p.m. that afternoon. We hope that you join us as well as with webcast play-by-play announcer Greg Sager. Looking at some of the other highlights on campus, the North Park women's volleyball team was in action last week. On September 30th, they unfortunately lost a 3-0 decision to number 21 nationally ranked Millikan University. Millikan University, probably one of the stronger teams, not only in the nation, but in the CCIW. They have been for not only this year, but in recent years as well. I know they and Carthage have had quite some battles in the conference tournament, and so Millikan, a very, very solid team. But North Park did an absolutely extraordinary job standing up to one of the most top nationally ranked teams in the country. And unfortunately snapped a 6-game winning streak for the Vikings. And Mona Lisa Fossavelu ended up having 5 kills and 7 digs in that game to lead North Park. And we have some highlights from that game, so let's go ahead and show you those right now.
Abigail McCowan to serve for the Vikings. McCowan service up. Intercepted by Millikan. Tapped over there by Becker. Nice block there. Gives it saved there by Break and gives it to Williams. Savon Williams with the kill there. Point goes to the Vikings. Service up. Given to Clay. Clay gives it to Switzer. Gives it back to Toth. Toth gets it over the net. Saved there by Millikan. Thompson. Great block there by number 5, Haley Break, number 9, Barbie Switzer. Service up. Clay saves it, gives it back over the net though right away. Set by Thompson, tipped over by Syverson. Great save by McCown, gives it to Clay. Clay gives it to Toth, who just tips it over the net. Point goes to the Vikings. Williams service up. It's over the net. Saved there by number 3, Haneke. Great tapped over there by Fossavelu. Nice block there by Break and Switzer. Point goes to the Vikings. Savon Williams to serve again. Williams service up over the net. Intercepted there by Capanet. Just tipped over there by Goody. This is a great save there by Williams. Great shot by number 2, Savon Williams with the kill. Number 2, Mona Lisa Fossavelu. That was not Savon Williams with the kill.
And once again, yes, the Vikings, it was an exciting match for the Vikings, but unfortunately they just couldn't pull out that victory. And they will be returning to action this Wednesday night when they will be traveling to Bloomington, Illinois to take on Illinois Wesleyan University for a 7 p.m. matchup out there in Bloomington. So moving on to some other sports, the North Park women's soccer team continues to be on the hot streak as they extended their win streak to 4 matches last week. They defeated Illinois Institute of Technology literally within the final 30 seconds of the match. Emma Lundeen scored the game winner with 31 seconds remaining in the match. Unfortunately, though, they lost Katrina Decker-Mengen to another knee injury in that game just prior to the start of the match. And then the Vikings later came home on Saturday and they defeated Milliken by a 4-0 score. Emma Lundeen, as I said, she scored her 9th goal in the victory, her 8th and 9th goal in the victory against IIT. She ended up scoring her 10th goal, her team-leading 10th goal in the victory against Milliken University. Viviana Preciado also scored a pair of goals in that game, as did Anna Nyquist in that game. So we have some highlights from that game as well. So let's go ahead and show you that North Park's victory over Milliken.
Lundeen's gonna take a shot, and she hits it! Goal, Emma Lundeen puts it in for the Vikings! Puts it in for a pass from Brittany Hensel! Goal for North Park! Emma Lundeen scores on a goal by assist from Brittany Hensel!
And yeah, we said, nice job there by the Vikings to defeat Milliken as they hope to continue their streak this week as they host UW-Whitewater this Wednesday night at 7 p.m. We hope that you will join us on the NPU Live channel, as I will be bringing you all the play-by-play action. We'll be bringing live video and audio as well as live stats for that game. Moving to some other teams on campus, the North Park men's soccer team is continuing to have just an unbelievable season to remember here. Vikings are off to their best start since the 2006 season under Coach John Bourne. They defeated Robert Morris University on Wednesday last week, October 1st. Stanley Lokamba had a pair of goals in that victory, and then they later moved on to defeat Milliken University by a 1-0 score on Saturday night. It was part of a doubleheader with the women's game, and the only goal that was scored in that game was a Pedro Kame Mosle goal, a penalty kick in the 56th minute. That was his team-leading, I believe it was team-leading 8th goal of the season. But going back to some of the other highlights from North Park, this men's soccer team this week, we do have some highlights from the Robert Morris University game that the Vikings had last Wednesday. So let's go ahead and show those to you right now.
He's got a little bit of daylight. He's going to blow it Texas, and he puts it in! Shot! Goal! Stanley Lokamba scores for the Vikings on the assist from Foltstedt. Marcus Foltstedt scores. Stanley Lokamba scores the goal. Goal for North Park. Stanley Lokamba now has a little bit of daylight. He's going to go ahead and roll this one in. He puts it in. Goal for North Park, number 35. Stanley Lokamba puts it in for the Vikings with 29:27 remaining in the first and the second half. And the Vikings have taken a 2-1 lead, 3-0 lead, excuse me, on the goal by Stanley Lokamba.
Shot by 10, goal by 10.
Goal scored for North Park, number 10. Diego Lashley puts it in for the Vikings to make this a 4-0 game now, as the Vikings have taken a commanding lead over Robert Morris University in this non-conference contest. On the assist from Stanley Lokamba, Diego Lashley puts it in for the Vikings.
And again, yep, as I said, the Vikings just doing an exceptional job this year as they continue to move up in the rankings, the top 25 national rankings in the D3Soccer.com poll. So, but Vikings now will be going off on a 4-game road trip these next couple of weeks, and they will face UW-Whitewater coming up on Wednesday evening out in Wisconsin, Whitewater, Wisconsin, for a 7 p.m. game. We'll be bringing live stats to you for that matchup on our website for that game. So, as I said, moving right along to looking at some of the other sports going on campus. The North Park women's tennis team finished their season On Saturday, they were originally supposed to play outside, but due to some of the weather conditions and court conditions, they had to move to the McFetteridge Tennis Complex over on the north side here of the city, and they played Carthage, but unfortunately lost that contest by a 9-0 decision. So they now have completed their regular season, and in about a week and a half they will be starting out the College Conference of Illinois and Wisconsin postseason tournament. Some of the players that will be highly ranked in that matchup will be our #1 singles player, Lisa Daniels, who could earn as high as a #3 seeding in that tournament. So be sure to keep up on our website to see how that unfolds in this next week and a half, as the Vikings will be moving on to the conference tournament. The North Park men's and women's cross country teams, they competed at the Wisconsin Lutheran College Warrior Invite this past weekend, and the men's team ended up finishing 8 out of 16 total teams, and the women's team had an unbelievable performance there as they finished 4th out of 14 teams, and they had all 5 of their runners finished in the top 35. So to give you an idea of just how impressive that is, I mean, 14 teams, and they finished 4th overall, those 14 teams, and they have 5 runners finishing in the top 35. So just an unbelievable performance there for the Vikings women's team, as they will now have a week of training, and they will return to action down at Bradley Bourbonnais in 2 weeks on Saturday. A week from this Saturday, they'll be down there October 18th. So we'll be looking forward to seeing them do that, as they will also, 3 weeks from Saturday, will also be competing in the CCIW championships as well. Probably the biggest highlight, I would say, of this week so far was the performance of junior women's golfer Emma Lofquist, who ended up finishing tied for 9th in the CCIW championships. Emma, who had earned a CCIW Women's Golfer of the Week honor earlier in the week for her performance at the Aurora University Invite, where she finished with 78 in that performance, or in that tournament. She went on to finish tied for 9th with a total individual score of 258 in the CCIW championships. But what was most impressive was the fact that she had a final round 3 score of 81, which was the second best score in the entire tournament for all 8 schools that competed. So we were actually able to catch up with Coach Mike Drake earlier today and to talk to him a little bit about the experience that Emma had over the weekend. So let's go ahead and show you that clip that we have with Coach Drake.
Head women's golf coach Mike Drake. Vikings coming off a solid performance at the CCIW championships this past weekend. Emma Lofquist ends up finishing tied for 9th in the final standings. And Mike, let's just talk about what Emma was able to do this past weekend.
Yeah, she played great. It was really exciting to see. She started off a little slow on day 1, coming in at a 94. It was tough scoring conditions that day, and our wave ended up going off later in the day when weather conditions were getting worse. The round was interrupted by thunderstorms and rain after about 9 holes. So just really difficult for her to find a rhythm and get some good scores in. But she came back on day 2 and made a dramatic improvement. Of course, got 3 inches of rain that night, so still difficult scoring conditions. Unfortunately, the players that came in a little ahead of her on day 1 struggled. On day 2, their wave went off as the wind started picking up, and so they faced some more challenging weather conditions on day 2 than Emma did. So she was able to take advantage of that, and then she carried that momentum right through on day 3 and improved again, coming in at an 81. And we were sitting there watching the scores come in after the round, biting our nails, anxiously waiting for them all to come in so we could see whether she made it or not.
At what point do you think that she was going to come up with just an unbelievable round?
Well, I knew that she had it in her. She came in second in our first tournament of the year at Augustana. She had a rough first day at that event, and then turned things around on day 2, shooting a 78, I believe, to finish in second place. Had another second place finish, and then she won at Aurora just earlier in the week.
Yeah.
So she had a lot of momentum coming into it. And, you know, we knew that she had it in her. She wasn't happy at all with her 94. She's got the ability to turn things around, and she went out and proved it.
Talk about now, just going into her senior season, just the potential that she's going to have now going into that final season for her next year.
Yeah, I know she's going to continue to play a lot of golf over the summertime, and she's going to practice hard this spring, so hopefully she can have another at least one win, maybe some top fives this spring, and just keep the momentum going. I think anything's possible for her for next year. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if she comes in the top 5 next year.
Awesome. All right. Thanks so much, Mike, for joining us today.
Thank you.
And once again, we wanted to thank Mike Drake for taking the time for us on this. And the women's team has now finished the season, so they have completed their regular season, and they will return in the spring. And so that's it for the North Park women's tennis teams, or excuse me, for the women's golf teams. So, and this has been another edition of NPU Weekly. We'd like to thank once again all of you for joining us. We'd like to thank Coach Drake for joining us as well. We hope that you enjoyed today's webcast, and we hope that you will be joining us this week as we will be bringing you North Park women's soccer on Wednesday. Vikings will be taking on UW Whitewater at 7 p.m. and we'll have both live video and audio as well as live stats for that matchup. And then on Saturday we will be bringing you North Park football, where the Vikings will be taking on North Central College. So once again, my name is Kevin Shepke, and I'd like to thank you once again for joining us for another edition of NPU Weekly. Have a good evening, everyone, and go Vikings!